Of course, Inovio also has a COVID-19 vaccine that they're developing. The story right now is they're testing it in phase 2. They can't, I think they're expecting to wrap up that testing early in the second quarter. They can advance to phase 3 testing until they answer some FDA questions about their device they use to administer the vaccine. It's a device called Selectra. And so Inovio is saying that they expect to address all those questions by the time they wrap up the phase 2 test. One of our viewers, Laura, has a question. I'm going to have part of her question anyway. She says, do you think that Inovio still has some chance in the vaccine market?
I think I heard you, caught you that they're finishing up the phase 2 clinical trial, and there's some issues with the machine that runs. So this is a DNA-based machine, and the way they get the DNA into the cells is they sort of fire it in with this machine, and so the machine is another component that is really it's a risk to investors, because they have to get both the machine to work properly and be able to manufacture it, as well as have the actual vaccine work. And so I think that's the biggest issues with Inovio. They are working on a pan coronavirus vaccine. So they're looking for different areas of the coronaviruses that are conserved over a whole bunch of coronaviruses, and then trying to develop a vaccine that's based on the areas that are conserved. And therefore, if they're conserved, that means they're less likely to get mutations, because they probably would have gotten those mutations already, and so that therefore they're probably important parts of the coronavirus that can't be mutated, or if they get mutated, then they're no longer, that makes the coronavirus no longer viable. And so I think that's where they're trying to go for. I think they're pretty late in the game. So whether they're gonna have to run a phase 3 clinical trial. We've talked about this before, but I think phase 3 clinical trials are going to get harder and harder to run, just because the number of patients that are going to be interested in enrolling the phase 3 clinical trials is going to go down, and the transmission rate is going to go down, and the clinical trials are based on the number of people who get COVID-19. So it's going to take longer and longer to run the clinical. Once you get it completely enrolled, then it's going to take longer and longer to run the clinical trial, because you have to get a certain number of people with COVID-19. And as the transmission rate goes down, it's going to become harder and harder. They may have to, maybe skip the US altogether, possibly, and try to go someplace where it has a much higher, where there's not, the vaccines haven't started rolling out, and so therefore the transmission rate is much higher.
Yeah, the other issue, I guess, in the US particularly, by the time Inovio even gets to phase 3 testing, assuming everything goes well, they answer the FDA's questions satisfactorily, we'll have enough vaccines to give to every American, right? So there won't be a market for 2021 for sure, even if everything went just amazingly well. So you're probably right. Maybe going to other countries might be Inovio's best bet for success going forward.